Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Their Excellencies, the Right Honourable Dame Patsy Reddy, Governor-General of New Zealand, and Sir David Gascoigne.
Taia, taia. Taia tēnei momo, taia tēnā momo whakatai rangatia. Whakamānawatia te toki atu, whakamānawatia te rau o rongo. O i whiwhi a te tohu, o i rawe a te tohu, o i tamau a te tohu, taumata rautia te tohu. Haumi e, hui e, tai e.
I ngā mana, i ngā reo. I ngā iwi o ngā hoe whā. Tēnei aku mihi mahana ki a koutou. Kia ora tātou katoa. Nau mai haere mai rā ki te whare kawana. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings to you all and welcome to Government House. I specifically acknowledge our kuia, Dr. Heria Hape, and our kaumatua, Professor Piri Shasha. Tēnā kōrua. It's a great pleasure to host this investiture ceremony and bring together 13 honour recipients along with their family and friends to recognise their contributions to our country. As Governor-General, I have the honour and privilege on behalf of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of New Zealand, to hold an investiture for her and to confer the honours to which each recipient is entitled. Ladies and gentlemen, as each one is honoured, I'd invite you to join me in thanking and congratulating them for their service to our country. Ward Kamo will now summon the recipients and read a citation for each one.
Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Dame Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Dame Fran Walsh of Wellington, for services to film. Dame Fran Walsh is an Academy Award-winning screenwriter, film producer and musician. Dame Fran Walsh has collaborated with her partner Sir Peter Jackson on all his films since Meet the Feebles, 1989, and was nominated for her first Oscar after co-writing Heavenly Creatures, 1994. She has been the co-screenwriter of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, King Kong, 2005, The Lovely Bones, 2009, the three-film adaptation of The Hobbit, and most recently Mortal Engines, 2018. In 2004, she shared 3 Oscar wins for her work on the final episode of The Lord of the Rings, including Best Song, Best Picture, and Best Adapted Screenplay. She has received a further 24 award nominations and 30 wins from the Australian Film Institute, the BAFTAs, the Grammys, the Golden Globes, and the Writers Guild of America. Her work with Wingnut Films includes producing, scriptwriting, musical composition, casting, and second unit directing. She has also worked on several projects outside of her partnership with Sir Peter Jackson as a script consultant and supervisor. With Sir Peter, she researched and produced the documentary film West of Memphis, which brought about the release from prison of 3 teenagers from West Memphis who had been wrongly convicted of murder under questionable evidence in 1994. Dame Fran was also involved in purchasing the site of Bats Theatre in Wellington in order to secure its future. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mr. Gary Taylor of Henderson, for services to the environment and resource management. Gary Taylor leads the Environmental Defence Society, EDS, and has overseen a large body of successful environmental litigation. He was involved in holding Horizons Regional Council to account for issuing consents for intensive dairy farming contrary to its plan. He led the successful legal challenge of Kaipara District Council's decision to remove the landscape chapter from its district plan. He initiated the Supreme Court proceedings in the EDS vs King Salmon case, which reset the jurisprudence on environmental bottom lines. After defeating a cubicle dairy farming proposal in the Mackenzie Basin, EDS convened a symposium that led to the establishment of the Mackenzie Forum and the subsequent Mackenzie Agreement. Mr. Taylor established the Land and Water Forum and is now a member of the Freshwater Leaders Group. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, the late Mr. Malcolm Black of Auckland, for services to the music industry. Malcolm Black was the lead singer and songwriter with the Netherworld Dancing Toys in the 1980s. He then became the first dedicated specialist music lawyer in New Zealand, representing the majority of active New Zealand artists. He was a key advisor on the establishment and review of the New Zealand On-Air Music Scheme. He was the Director of Artist and Repertoire for Sony Music in New Zealand, helping to develop the international careers of Beck Runga, Brooke Fraser and Shay Fu. He chaired the Music Industry Export Development Group. He established Les Mills Music Licensing, which supplies Les Mills International with music across 18,000 fitness clubs in 80 countries. Mr. Black was the New Zealand writer representative on the board of directors of the Australasian Performing Rights Association. Ms. Julia Black will accept the insignia on her late husband's behalf. Mr. David Gapes of Auckland for servicing to broadcasting. David Gapes co-founded Radio Hauraki in 1966 as a sea-based private enterprise radio station. In the face of governmental and departmental opposition, Radio Hauraki won sufficient public support to break the state's broadcasting monopoly. Mr. Gapes publicly headed the station's fight against government policy in broadcasting and eventually steered it through the process of applying for a radio licence. He became chairman and CEO of Radio Hauraki New Zealand Limited and guided the new land-based station through its early years. As private radio developed, he was an unpaid advisor to many new applicants around New Zealand. In more recent years, Mr. Gapes has managed the rock group Hello Sailor. He's been editor of Ad Media and On Film magazines, and been founder and editor of the daily online newsletter M&AD. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Ms. Sue Gardner of Auckland, for services to the arts. Sue Gardner is a trustee of the Chartwell Trust, a New Zealand charitable philanthropic trust started by her father, which supports the visual arts and knowledge about the creative process. She is co-director of the Chartwell Collection, a major public art collection, and has volunteered her time to arts organisations in Auckland. She is a board member of the University of Auckland's Creative Thinking Project. She is part of the panel that selects artists annually for the McCann House residency. Ms. Gardner was co-director of the Save Our Gallery campaign, which aimed to restore and protect the public funding of the Auckland Art Gallery Toi o Tāmaki. Mr. Lawrence Gordon of Kaitaia for services to wildlife conservation. Lawrence Gordon initiated the Kōkako Recovery Project in the Mangatutu Ecological Area, northern Pureora, which has seen a significant increase in North Island kōkako from 7 pairs in 1995 to 185 pairs in 2016. His predator control has also seen an increase in many other native birds, including kaka, kakariki, kereru, rifleman, karearea, and North Island robin. He set up the first large-scale predator control program on the Russell Peninsula, allowing for the reintroduction of North Island weka, and a successful predator control program at Purerua Peninsula, saving decimated pohutukawa and protecting North Island brown kiwi. Mr. Gordon was previously a trustee of the New Zealand Native Forest Restoration Trust. Ms. Raewyn Piat of Auckland for services to environmental and conservation policy. Raewyn Piat is Policy Director of the Environmental Defence Society, EDS. She has written or co-authored a number of books with the aim of raising public awareness about resource management issues. She played a leading role in the Sea Change Marine Spatial Planning exercise for the Hauraki Gulf. She has been a researcher and lead author of EDS reports that have helped inform the creation of the Environmental Protection Authority, the Exclusive Economic Zone Act, Resource Management Act reform, marine spatial planning, and improved biodiversity management. She organises the annual EDS Environmental Conference. Ms. Pert has presented at international conferences and workshops on New Zealand experiences in environmental and resource management. Ms. Miriana Pittman of Napier for services to Māori and family violence prevention. Miriana Pittman works as a trainer and facilitator at Dove Hawke's Bay, a family violence prevention organisation. She has been the National Māori Chairperson of Women's Refuge and contributed to the development of Moriora, a violence prevention framework, by participating in the Ministerial Māori Task Force on Family Violence. She is a coordinator of the Ngāti Kaungunu Violence-Free Iwi Strategy, a project supported by Te Puni Kōkiri and based in Hawke's Bay. She has authored and co-authored a number of publications that address family violence and parenting from a kaupapa Māori research perspective. Ms. Pittman has frequently spoken publicly about issues affecting Māori children and young people. Mrs. Margaret Wilson of Auckland for services to women. Margaret Wilson has been a long-standing member of the National Council of Women and is currently the convener for Family Affairs. She has held leadership roles on the Mothers' Union of Aotearoa New Zealand and Polynesia, including as National President. She has supported the Māori Mothers' Union branches in and north of Kaitaia and the Christchurch branch after the Canterbury earthquakes. As a member of St Andrew's Anglican Church in Kohimarama, Auckland, she has worked in many capacities to support the clergy, the congregation and the community. Mrs Wilson has been an active member of the St Heliers Bay Croquet Club and the New Zealand Hand Weavers Guild. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mr Alistair Mason of Warkworth for services to philanthropy and the community. Alistair Mason helped the Jane Gifford Restoration Trust with the rebuild of the historic scow used around the Warkworth area 100 years ago. He assisted with the rebuild of the Warkworth Town Wharf. He instigated and financed a program to supply automated external defibrillator units in conjunction with St John to local sporting and community organisations. He was a major financial contributor to the construction of the new Warkworth Wellsford Hospice House. He has assisted with many local sports and community clubs and youth initiatives. Mr Mason has been committee member of various sporting, community and business organisations over the years. Mrs. Danny Preston Thomas of Auckland for services to counselling and victim support. Danny Preston Thomas is a qualified counsellor with the New Zealand Association of Counsellors. She has worked as a manager of Orewa victim support for the Rodney Police District and volunteered as a counsellor with the Auckland branch of Lifeline, where she also assisted with the selection and training of new counsellors and sat on a number of committees. She is the longest serving accredited restorative justice facilitator with the Waitakere Restorative Justice Community Trust. Mrs. Preston Thomas served on the trust boards for 7 years and was a member of the Ministry of Justice Expert Panel for Domestic Violence. Mrs. Kate Reid of Christchurch for services to palliative care. Kate Reid is a senior lecturer in palliative care at the University of Canterbury. She is a life member and chair of the Cancer Society of New Zealand's Canterbury West Coast Division. She's been an active member of the executive board of the local division and a member of the Medical and Scientific Grants Committee. Mrs. Reid was appointed to a National Evaluation Advisory Group to distribute Ministry of Health Innovation funding to new hospice palliative care services. Mrs. Reid is a former president of Hospice New Zealand and has served on the Christ College Board of Governors. Mrs. Elizabeth Thomas of Oxford for services to equestrian sports and the community. Elizabeth Thomas is the founder and director of Hawhai Residential School of Riding Limited at View Hill, Oxford. She has helped riders achieve their riding goals and has invited many young people struggling with family issues or social issues into her home. She has hosted school groups, the IHC Ashburton, and at-risk remand groups and drug and alcohol rehabilitation groups. Mrs. Thomas coached a New Zealand Pony Club Inter-Pacific team to Australia. She was the View Hills Pony Club Inter-Pacific team to Australia and was its head coach, an examiner for the New Zealand Pony Club Association and a New Zealand Qualification Authority workplace assessor. Your Excellency, the investiture is concluded.
Ladies and gentlemen, an investiture ceremony is the most important event I hold on behalf of Her Majesty, the Queen of New Zealand. It allows me, as Governor-General, to recognise and thank an extraordinary group of people on behalf of all New Zealanders. By using their talents to make ours a better society, whether by service in their communities or by their leadership in diverse fields of endeavour, or their commitment to excellence in their field of expertise, our recipients have set a fine example for others to follow, encouraging them all in their own endeavours. To the recipients, it's been a privilege to hear your stories today. You've demonstrated determination, commitment and compassion in your daily lives. In your own way, each of you has helped make New Zealand a better place to live. In some cases, your influence and the positive impact of your work has extended beyond our shores. Your actions and the stories we've heard reflect the spirit of the words of another great New Zealander, Sir Edmund Hillary, when he said, "People do not decide to become extraordinary. They decide to accomplish extraordinary things." Your extraordinary contributions have enriched the cultural, social and economic fabric of Aotearoa, New Zealand. Please wear your insignia with pride, knowing that your communities appreciate and value the work you have done and are inspired by your example. On behalf of the Queen of New Zealand and all New Zealanders, I thank you for your work, I congratulate you for your achievements, and thank you for your service to our country. Kia ora whiwhi tātou katoa. Ladies and gentlemen, that almost brings to a close the formal part of today's ceremony. But before we break for refreshments, may I ask you to stand and join me in singing our national anthem in Māori and in English.